Most people enter adulthood believing the salary system is safety. A fixed paycheck feels like stability. You know when money is coming in, you can plan your expenses, and you feel protected from uncertainty. Society reinforces this idea constantly. Parents encourage it, schools prepare you for it, and employers frame it as success. Getting a good job becomes the finish line. But the salary system is not designed to create freedom. It is designed to create predictability, and predictability is extremely valuable to the system, not to the individual living inside it. The moment you accept a salary, your relationship with money changes in a fundamental way. Your income becomes capped. It doesn't matter how valuable the company becomes, how much revenue you help generate, or how hard you push yourself. Your reward is predefined. You trade a fixed amount of time for a fixed amount of money, and once that agreement is made, the upside is largely removed. This is the first trap, because it feels like progress while quietly limiting how far you can go. The salary system works because it feels fair. Show up, do the work, get paid. But fairness is not the same as advantage. The system needs millions of people whose income is predictable, so costs, debts, and consumption patterns can be forecasted. Predictable earners make predictable spenders. Predictable spenders make stable markets. Stability is the system's goal. Your independence is not. One of the most dangerous aspects of the salary system is how early it trains dependency. From the first paycheck, life begins to organize itself around income timing. Rent, bills, subscriptions, loans, and responsibilities all align with that predictable flow. Over time, your freedom shrinks, not because you are careless, but because the system encourages you to build a life that requires constant income. Once that happens, leaving the system feels risky, even if staying inside it feels exhausting. The salary system also creates a psychological ceiling. When income is tied to a role, people start measuring their worth through titles, promotions, and raises. Progress becomes incremental and externally controlled. You wait for approval to earn more. You negotiate within narrow ranges. Even ambition is contained. Instead of asking how value is created, people ask how to climb within the structure they're already inside. The system prefers this. Internal competition keeps people focused upward, not outward. Another trap is how the salary system disguises time as security. A steady paycheck feels like certainty, but it's conditional. It depends on performance, company health, market conditions, and decisions you don't control. Yet people often build long-term obligations around this temporary arrangement. Mortgages, car loans, and lifestyle costs assume future income that is never guaranteed. The system quietly shifts risk onto the individual while maintaining the illusion of safety. The salary system also disconnects effort from ownership. You may contribute years of energy, creativity, and problem solving, but when you leave empty-handed. The value you helped build stays with the system. This is not accidental. The system separates labor from assets intentionally. Labor is replaceable. Ownership is protected. Salaries compensate you just enough to keep you engaged, not enough to give you leverage. Inflation makes this trap even tighter. While salaries rise slowly, costs rise continuously. What once felt like progress becomes maintenance. Raises feel smaller each year. Purchasing power erodes quietly. People respond by working harder, asking for promotions, or switching jobs, but the structure remains the same. More effort is applied to a system that is designed to absorb it without changing the outcome. Over time, the salary system shapes behavior. People become risk-averse, not because they lack courage, but because they have too much to lose. Dependence, obligations, and social expectations all tie back to income stability. The system rewards those who stay inside the lines and quietly punishes those who step outside them. This doesn't require force, it works through incentives. The most powerful part of the salary trap is that it delays dissatisfaction. Early on, it works well enough. People move out of survival, upgrade their lifestyle, and feel accomplished. This reinforces belief in the system. But as years pass, progress slows. Responsibilities increase. Freedom decreases. By the time the trap becomes obvious, exiting feels far more difficult than entering ever did. This is why the salary system is the first trap. Not because earning a salary is wrong, but because it is presented as the end goal instead of what it really is, an entry point. The system never intended for most people to move beyond it. It needs a wide base of salaried earners to function. When people believe the salary is success, they stop looking for anything beyond it. Understanding this doesn't require anger or rebellion. It requires clarity. The salary system is not evil. It is efficient. It does exactly what it was designed to do. The problem begins when people expect it to deliver freedom, security, and control, outcomes it was never meant to provide. And once you see the salary system clearly, many frustrations begin to make sense. The exhaustion, the feeling of running in place, the sense that something is missing despite doing everything right. These feelings are signals, not failures. They are the natural result of spending too long inside a system that values predictability over independence. This awareness is uncomfortable, but necessary, because until you recognize the first trap, every other part of the money system will feel confusing. You will keep applying effort where structure matters more. You will keep seeking safety in a system that trades it for control. And you will keep mistaking income for progress. This is only the surface of how the salary system shapes lives and limits outcomes. There is much more beneath it, and understanding that deeper layer changes how you see work, money, and the choices you were taught to accept without question. Once you understand why the salary system is the first trap, the next realization is even more uncomfortable. The trap is not maintained by force, but by habit. People don't stay in the salary system because they are unaware of its limits. They stay because the system slowly shapes their decisions, fears, and identity. Over time, the paycheck stops being just income and becomes emotional security. It represents survival, approval, and stability. Walking away from it doesn't feel like changing a strategy. It feels like risking your entire life structure. The salary system succeeds because it turns money into something you wait for rather than something you control. Your financial life becomes reactive. You plan around pay cycles. You postpone decisions until the next paycheck. You measure safety by how many months you can survive without income. This mindset keeps people focused on continuity rather than growth. As long as income continues, deeper questions are delayed. The system doesn't need you to be unaware forever. It only needs you to stay busy enough not to question your position. Another layer of the trap is how the salary system limits imagination. When income is tied to a role, people unconsciously limit their thinking to what fits that role. They ask, how do I get promoted? Instead of, how does money actually move? They ask, how do I earn more? Instead of, how do people gain leverage? The system narrows the scope of acceptable questions. Anything outside that frame feels unrealistic, risky, or irresponsible. Over time, curiosity fades, replaced by optimization within the same boundaries. The salary system also creates a false sense of progress through lifestyle upgrades. Each increase in income often leads to an increase in expenses. Better housing, newer cars, more convenience. These upgrades feel like rewards for hard work, but they also raise the cost of leaving the system. What initially feels like success becomes an anchor. The system doesn't trap people by taking money away. It traps them by giving just enough to make exiting painful. Social pressure reinforces this deeply. Salaried success is visible and socially approved. Titles, offices, and steady income are easy to understand and celebrate. Other forms of financial positioning are less visible and often misunderstood. This creates a powerful incentive to stay inside the salary path, even when it no longer feels aligned. People don't want to explain themselves. They don't want to look irresponsible. The system uses social validation as a stabilizing force. There's also a subtle trade happening that most people never consciously agree to. In exchange for predictable income, you surrender flexibility. Your time is structured by someone else's priorities. Your energy is allocated to goals you don't control. Your best hours often belong to the system. This trade-off is rarely framed honestly. It is sold as normal adulthood. But over decades, it reshapes lives. People become efficient at surviving while slowly losing control over how their time and attention are used. The salary system also trains people to think linearly. One job leads to the next. One raise leads to the next. One decade of work leads to retirement. This linear path feels orderly, but it hides a critical flaw. Linear income cannot keep up with exponential systems. Costs, technology, and capital scale faster than wages. No matter how committed someone is, the math eventually works against them. The system doesn't collapse because of this mismatch. Individuals do. What makes the salary trap especially effective is that it doesn't feel like a trap until much later. Early success masks long-term limits. People are encouraged to be grateful rather than curious. Gratitude is important, but when used to silence questioning, it becomes a tool of compliance. The system benefits when people interpret dissatisfaction as entitlement instead of information. As years pass, many people sense a quiet tension. They are doing well by conventional standards, yet feel increasingly constrained. Time feels scarce. Options feel narrower. The future feels dependent on continued performance rather than accumulated control. This tension is often misdiagnosed as burnout, midlife crisis, or lack of motivation. In reality, it is the natural outcome of being optimized for productivity rather than autonomy. The most revealing moment comes when people imagine losing the salary. Fear spikes instantly. This fear is not irrational. It is the result of building a life that depends on uninterrupted income. The system encourages this dependency because it ensures continued participation. A dependent population is stable. A financially autonomous population is unpredictable. The salary system quietly trades long-term independence for short-term certainty. And most people don't realize the cost until they are deeply invested. Seeing the salary system clearly doesn't mean rejecting employment or income. It means understanding its role. A salary is not freedom. It is not security. It is a tool the system uses to organize labor. When people mistake the tool for the destination, they stop looking for leverage. They stop asking how to position themselves differently. They accept ceilings they never consciously agreed to. This awareness changes how you interpret success. A higher salary no longer automatically means progress. A promotion no longer feels like the ultimate goal. Instead, questions shift toward control, flexibility, and resilience. How dependent am I on this income? How exposed am I to decisions I don't control? How much of my life structure collapses if the paycheck stops? These are uncomfortable questions, but they are necessary ones. The salary system was never meant to be the finish line. It was designed as a stable base for the system itself. When people build their entire financial identity around it, they unknowingly accept a role that limits their options. This is not a personal failure. It is the predictable outcome of a system that rewards compliance and discourages exploration. Once this realization sets in, it becomes difficult to unsee. The rules of the money system start to appear more clearly. You notice how many incentives push people toward dependency and away from ownership. You see how effort is rewarded with responsibility, but not control. And you begin to understand why so many people feel trapped without being able to explain why. Recognizing the salary system as the first trap is not about despair. It is about honesty. It strips away comforting myths and replaces them with clarity. And clarity, while uncomfortable, is the first step toward making decisions based on understanding rather than habit. Until that happens, the salary system continues to do what it was designed to do: keep people busy, predictable, and dependent, while convincing them that this is simply how life works.